If you're a business owner, maybe running an HR team, or you're an investor, you're definitely looking to acquire top global talent. There's a massive shift that's happened, and I'm going to take you through how you can attract and retain top talent. It's simple, you don't have to use heavily expensive tools, but there's kind of a new age that we've entered into post pandemic. And it's kind of internet capitalization, right? And it means that there's a global competition for the world's best talent. And I think that's super exciting, whether you're in the USA, Europe, or in Africa. For the first time, you can truly work remotely and you can work for the world's top enterprises. This kind of opens up our total net of opportunities. And I think companies should embrace this innovation rather than being restrictive in terms of hybrid versus remote versus fully in office. I think it's more about how do you leverage global talent and how do you leverage that to kind of increase the value of your team. So today I thought I'd kind of take you through, okay, well, what are the top benefits? How do you, number one, attract this global talent pool? And then how do you retain it? There's simple tools that we can put in place that you can implement, which they don't have to cost a fortune, right? The first one I want to chat about is what they call kind of PTO. If you work in HR, you'll be pretty familiar with this. This is just paid time off, essentially. The first thing you need to kind of consider is looking at the local laws. So I know if you're in Germany, there's certain local laws that are probably a bit more stringent than other countries. But PTO kind of essentially just means that you need to properly track the paid time off. You need to ensure that the time off that you allow, whether it's vacation days, sick days, that they're being kind of properly tracked and implemented. We typically see that in-office staff, because they have that sort of tighter feedback loop, there's a bit more kind of adherence to PTO, where if you're a remote contractor, it might get pushed aside. So I would really look at sort of number one, PTO policies, maybe just implement like a PTO policy in place that clearly outlines and guidelines it for all your staff. The second one would be using very lightweight tools, maybe like an Airtable, to just track all your remote staff, their PTO. Make sure you track it efficiently. If you're on HR, obviously you probably have your own internal system, but as a business owner, this can kind of fly under the radar sometimes. The second big one is digital nomad visas. Now, what we're seeing is, especially in the Netherlands, for example, in Amsterdam, they've done it really well, right? They've created a digital nomad visa, and what that means is, you can come from places like South Africa, you can go and work there as long as you're earning, over 2,000 euros a month. There's certain, obviously, guidelines in place, but it means that you're not necessarily applying for residency. It's a bit more lightweight. If you're an internet worker or knowledge worker, you can basically go there and you can work there, and you can get that digital nomad visa pretty easily. We're seeing that a lot of South Africans are moving over to somewhere like the Netherlands. They're working for tech companies there, and it's just a super effective policy. It's not really up to you, I think, as a company to necessarily give out these digital nomad visas, but it can be a massive thing to attract talent from places like South Africa, from Mexico, from the Philippines. I mean, these digital nomad visas rarely allow you to relocate staff. We use a platform, deal.com, which it's a really, really impressive platform. It's pretty simple to kind of start that application process, and a platform like Deal can kind of do that for you. We have used it to leverage staff in the Netherlands. These digital nomad visas, I think, are pretty crucial. The third one I want to chat to you about is remote employee wellness. So there's two leverage points of remote work. It's flexibility, and the second one is kind of getting that full value without having to have in-office workers. You're getting global talent. It brings a different perspective, a different skill set. It could even reduce your costs as a company, which I think is very attractive to business owners. But there's also a problem where, it can also isolate team members. More than 50% of remote workers can feel isolation, things like imposter syndrome. We see that on our platform, Ollie Health. And what we want to kind of do is look at how do you create support structures for remote staff. So you just want to make sure there's a tight feedback loop. You want to give them online support platforms, maybe something like Ollie Health, where it's anonymous, it's virtual mental health support. In case of emergency situations, particularly if there's issues that have happened in the family, a traumatic event, you really want to have a support platform in place. Particularly what we see is you want something that's more 24/7. In places like the UK, a wait time to see even a counselor can be up to 3 weeks, which is crazy. So you want to maybe look at a platform that's offering 24/7 support. Maybe it ties into your healthcare benefits plan. Also, not typically something that smaller companies with 30 staff members or less look at for remote employees, with like a full healthcare plan. But you get these kind of lightweight platforms like an Ollie Health that it's based on usage. It's not necessarily you paying across the full healthcare spectrum for your staff. The fourth one I want to chat about is sort of how do you compensate remote workers? I think a lot of companies are kind of compensating based on location, which you can do if you use a platform like Wing Assist or Shepherd. You know, you're leveraging workers in the Philippines, maybe in South America. Obviously, the going rate of salary there is slightly different to if you're in Germany or in the Netherlands. But you also want to look at what are the methods and tools that you use to actually compensate your staff. You know, a lot of if you're doing direct transfers, there are platforms like a Float Pays or a Gem HR, which I've seen locally in South Africa, which can help you, you know, seamlessly pay your staff. It kind of has automated triggers on WhatsApp. In the case of Gem, you know, you can even front up, you know, remote worker salaries. You just want to look at, okay, instead of just doing a bank transfer where you're also getting kind of hammered on the fees, you want to look at some smart platforms that are also designed for more remote teams. You know, I think 53% of remote workers find it kind of challenging to connect with coworkers as well. What we've experienced at Ollie is there can kind of be this divide between the in-office staff, particularly that are local, versus remote contractors. You really want to try and bring in tools like Slack, obviously productivity tools, but more importantly, how can you get the team kind of feeling like one unit as well? And yeah, these are just kind of simple benefits. You don't have to go out and spend $20,000, $30,000 a month on this budget. Obviously, hiring remote staff is meant to be cost effective. It's meant to be flexible for you as a business owner or an HR team. So you want to keep it simple, but you want to look at a couple of important factors. So it's essentially the support, so the wellness support, having those support structures in place. You want to look at the visa situation. Is it optimal, and how are you compensating and paying your remote staff? What platforms are you using that can kind of streamline that process, that can save you on transaction fees, but it kind of creates a better experience for your remote team? And yeah, those are the kind of benefits that we look at. Obviously, with Ollie Health, we provide that specifically for remote teams. If you want to work for us, you can always reach out to me in the DMs. And yeah, more